The political shakeup coming straight from the top in Egypt. Egyptian President Mohamed Morsy removing the nation's top 2 military officers, including the powerful Field Marshal Tantawi. They are being, quote, sent to retirement. Mr. Morsy also took away the military council's legislative powers without warning, effectively shaking off the army's grip on power. Ian Lee joins us now on the line. He's on his way to Cairo from the Sinai. Ian, the new president is taking on the most powerful man in the country and the most powerful institution. Explain to us, what's he up to?
Well, John, I think it's safe to say that Egypt is in shock right now at the news of Field Marshal Tantawi and General Anan being retired. They will now be presidential advisors. But one thing, we talked to the prime minister, and he said that this is something that the government and the military has been talking about. They've been discussing this. Tantawi has talked about retirement. But this definitely comes as a shock, and this definitely puts President Mohamed Morsy in the driver's seat, so to speak. He has now taken a lot of power, and to kind of emphasize that power that he's taken, the constitutional declaration that happened on July 17th that limited his powers, well, he just canceled that declaration. So he now has a lot more power, including he's now in charge of the Constitutional Assembly, the body that's supposed to make the Constitution. If they can't come to an agreement, he will now be the one that appoints the members of that assembly. So that's another. That's a lot of power he just took there. I think it's also important to point out that he appointed a vice president, and this is the second vice president that Egypt has had in its history. And he previously promised to have a Christian or a woman. We don't know why he didn't, that promise wasn't made good. But this is a big time for Egypt. A lot of things happening tonight, John.
This is a stunning reduction in the military's power in that country. You mentioned the Prime Minister says it's been planned in advance, it's routine. I'm just curious, has the military said anything of the kind? Has Tantawi himself spoken?
And that's the thing we're waiting for. The military hasn't said anything. They've been tight-lipped. We haven't heard from Tantawi or Anan. We really don't know. And this raises a few questions. First of all, we had the cabinet reshuffle not too long ago. Why didn't he retire then? That's one thing a lot of people are going to be asking. The other thing is, as you mentioned, I'm coming back from the Sinai. There's a military operation going on right there. So why would this happen during the middle of a military operation? That's another question a lot of people are going to be asking.
Well, here's a question I'm asking, which is, does the president actually have the constitutional authority to do what he says he's done? When he was elected, we were all reminded of how little power the office was invested with constitutionally. There is this decree that limited his power very explicitly, and he has unilaterally abolished that decree. He's changed the rules of the game, rules that really gave him very little power. Is there any question about whether, whatever the military says, whether the courts will allow him to go ahead?
Well, so far what we're hearing is that this is legal, that the moves he made are within the framework of his job, his title. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see challenges through the courts. This is something that every time President Mohamed Morsy has made a bold decision, there's always been legal challenges through the courts. Most recently, he tried to reinstate Parliament, but that was shot down by the Supreme Court. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see coming tomorrow challenges to this recent ruling.
Ian Lee rushing back to Cairo after the startling news in the Egyptian capital. Thanks very much.